Well, I don't know if I'd equate our Friday show to the Beatles just yet, but we're definitely on track. But,
Close.
and as our special guest today, guys, would you guys give a warm, fuzzy welcome to our residential Twitch and Mixer streamer, TilTruth. You guys know him. You love him. How you doing today, Truth?
Good. Happy to be here. Happy to be on the show. Watched from afar for a while, so it's cool to be here.
Yeah, so it's fun to have you on. Dude, I always love your setup is like constantly changing and I love it.
It is. Yep. Well, it's the different, like, you can only have so many camera angles in like a closet of a room like we were talking about beforehand. But and we have remnants of like my birthday decorations, so that's why it looks different right now. But yeah.
I know. So how old did you, because you just had your birthday stream, right?
I did.
So how old did you just...
Well, I'm trying to think of a Ken roast joke right now, but I'm going to pass. I just turned 29.
29. So you are older than me by like...
Yep, and I'm an old man.
A year. No, yeah, by a year.
Okay.
So, well, right now 2 years, but I got a solid month and a half. Where I can be like, man, you're old, dude.
Yeah, I am old. I feel old.
You're a year from 30.
I know.
If it helps put into perspective, okay. This coming Friday,
when you turned.
This coming Friday, my son turns 30.
It does help.
Yeah.
But
so here you are,
kids.
Yeah, we could be your kids. Just know all of GMA expects, birthday gifts and Christmas gifts from you this year, Ken.
True. Where's my birthday card? I didn't get that.
Come on, Ken.
So I, of course, on the 18th, I'm turning 55, so I will be a ripe older age. So
55.
55.
That's not that.
I know the camera adds years to this, Kay, but
camera adds years. It's the lighting.
I was born in the 60s, not the 50s.
You're funny. All right. I don't even know. I don't even want to make fun of you today, Ken, because I'm just happy you're back. I'm happy you're here. I know chat's happy you're here, and so I'm gonna do my best to be on my best behavior. Mean truth. We're gonna try to be nice to you today a little bit. But
wow,
let's
so unusual.
Why don't you start us off then in prayer, and then we'll get talking all the news of this week. There's a lot that happened, and then you even have some field stuff to kind of tell us how PAX West. It was PAX West, not PAX East, right?
PAX West, right?
That happened this weekend. So yeah, so we'll talk all that stuff. But let's pray first. You want to get us started, and then we'll jump right into trailers.
Okay. Almighty God, we thank you so much for this opportunity and be able to have the technology, the bandwidth, and the time and the wherewithal to do this, to share who we are with other people, but recognizing that we're Christians, but we also have other interests, and we want to share that with everybody else. And just help us, Father, to say the right words, do the right things, speak well, speak always in the way you need to speak, and watch over everybody in chat, all those people who aren't able to make it, and help them in making sure that we have a good Friday. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
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 All right, Ken. Well, do you want to kick us off as the returning resident here with all we got going on today?
Right. So last week I watched last week's episode. Oh my goodness.
That's really close to your face.
Saw me on your stream, right? It's like.
Well, if you don't want it that close.
No, it's just like, it just kind of freaked me out. So watching last week's episode,
Can you make it this too hard, man? Sorry.
About Star Wars. Okay, no Star Wars this week. But there is a trailer for a show called Aeronauts. It looks like it's an Amazon show. That's what's interesting about all these trailers nowadays. You don't just pick trailers that go to theaters. It's either Amazon, Netflix, or whatever, but just movies, good, solid movies. This one stars Felicity Jones and that guy from Harry Potter, the mystery magical creatures thing, right? And about how, I guess, people thought that weather forecasting was not science in the past. So anyways, Truth, what do you think of this trailer, and are you interested in seeing it?
I did watch it. Yeah, I actually watched it. I wasn't ready for this line of questioning, but here we go. I think it actually looked kind of cool. I mean, if you have a fear of heights, I would say don't go see this. That was about like the biggest takeaway when I saw this. I was like, holy cow, it looks like kind of death defying in a lot of ways. But I think it'd be fun. I don't know if it's something I would like pay to go see in the theater, but it sounds like it's just coming to Amazon anyway, so they won't be faced with that. But maybe it is coming to the theaters. I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is just another Amazon. I mean, at least for the way I took it, I think it's just straight up Amazon movie. Like it's part of their video series, like you know, a Netflix esque thing that they have that I've never watched. That everyone keeps telling me is actually they have really good content on there. But I could not for the life of me remember where the dude, the main guy in this movie, was from. I'm like, he looks so familiar, and then I remember he's the guy from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. Right?
That's it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I was like, man, this guy, like, his name sounds really familiar. He looks really familiar, and the whole trailer, like, I was so focused on that. But I thought this was going to be like a astronaut movie, you know, like another space movie. And then I actually was like really curious, and I know it's not the actual story of what happened, but it's based on true events. And my thing with historical things is always it's cool to see a dramatized version of that because it makes me, if it's good, it makes me interested in wanting to go back to see what's actually true about that, what they added into the film, you know, like, and so I think it's shedding light on something that I would never have thought about, but that looks really, really cool. Ken, you're the one who picked this trailer. What do you think?
I recognize the guy, but the girl I did not recognize. So I went to IMDb and go, oh, it's Felicity Jones. Okay. You know, it's like, kind of cool. I mean, obviously aeronauts. I'm an aeronautical engineer. And so I was like, And I like the fact that it's aeronauts versus astronauts because it is more of a in the astro, but in the aero.
Do you think they like battle out astronauts at the end in like the final scene?
That's right. Not Rey.
No, it's not Rey from Star Wars. No, it's what is she in?
Code Rebel One. No. Oh my gosh.
Good morning, Jones.
Rogue One. Thank you.
Yeah, she's the girl from Rogue One. That's what she's from. Yeah.
Right. But I thought it was, like you said, Jay, it's a period piece. It's kind of cool. I think they did a good job. It's kind of nice to see a little bit of history and story, but it's also a reminder how much, you know, even today, you know, we have people who always like people trying to push the outer limits, which is great. You know, that's how mankind is. Mankind's always been that way about trying to test the outer limits and learning more about God's world. And so here is like we can probably find a way to predict the weather. Like what? Now, mind you, we still know weather prediction isn't perfect, but boy, it is nice to see people be able to predict something that's coming weather-wise. And so it looks like it started here, or at least these or some of the original people who started that.
Yeah, so I'm excited. Like I said, it's crazy because what I love what they've been able to do, what we're seeing a lot in movies now is going back in period pieces and adding whether that's a horror element or something like this where it's a scientific element where it's like in today's world it's like, well, yeah, of course everybody flies in planes, everybody, you know, has this, but going back to eras where that technology and these things weren't common, you know, so and there's a lot of the firsts of discovering that. It must have been so cool and exciting. And so I was watching this, I'm like, this could probably be like a series if it wanted to be. Like I was like, this could be kind of cool to see the development of this further, but I'm kind of happy it's a movie because it's just like a quick 1 hour, 1.5 hours, 2 hours long movie that's going to just, you know, wrap it up nicely, I think. So
yeah, it's a combination of things there because you got the guy who's being laughed at saying, this is not science, okay, predicting the weather. You have the female who is an aeronaut. It's her hot air balloon, like, oh, women can't do this type of thing. You know, and then, of course, by virtue also, this was a risky endeavor back then. This is before Wright brothers flying. This was the original people in the air flying with these hot air balloons. So it's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure.
Now, this next movie, I'm definitely seeing because I'll be back. Jay, this was not the first time we've seen these trailers, but this is a different one, and this is the Sarah Connor story this time. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah,
this trailer.
This guy is as old as I think you. Is he older than you? Who's older, you or?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure he's older.
Yeah, Arnold's older than me.
Arnold is older.
Oh, now I gotta figure this out. Okay,
Arnold's like 70.
Is he? I don't know. He is an old man, but yeah, the trailer here kind of shows, and she's looking pretty old herself in the shot.
He was born in 47. He's my parents' age almost.
God, I'm not making funny. I was just trying to see if who is older. That's all I was trying to figure out. But yeah, here I'm gonna put the trailer on here for everyone so that everyone else can see it as we're talking here. But yeah, I like this trailer. I thought it was pretty cool. You know, it's still kind of in this unbelievable round. The CGI stuff is still a little up there, but I like this trailer, I think, a lot better than I liked the last one. Truth, what did you see? Did you check this one out?
I did watch this one. I feel like I'm kind of disconnected from the whole Terminator series or saga. I've watched them kind of like here or there, but nothing that's like really sparked my interest, which that's one man's opinion. But I feel like I do generally like the I would say sci-fi-esque series that come out, but this one for whatever reason has never really resounded with me. But kind of seemed like the same old thing, like they throwing on Arnold in there. Like, I feel like he shouldn't be in a series like this anymore. I don't know, maybe a quick cameo on it. It looked like that was kind of his role, but I don't know if it particularly was like riveting for me.
Do you guys think that they're gonna do like follow in the footsteps of like a Star Wars type of thing, where they're gonna have the old people that kind of made the series back in the day, in it for the first one, and they're gonna introduce a lot of new characters, and then in the second one, like, you're gonna see them die off and kind of have this transition of what they kind of have, because obviously Arnold can't keep doing all this.
And the trailer mentioned it. They said, it said, I'm Sarah Connor, okay, and I stopped Judgment Day, 1997 Judgment Day. I stopped it. 3.8 billion people were survived, and then the support person says, well, you stopped it, but you only delayed it. So now, which means, hey, it's a multiverse type thing. Now we have a new storyline. The storyline that came from the original Terminator is gone because she did stop Judgment Day. Now comes a whole new storyline.
Yeah, I guess if you're like invested in this, I'm kind of with Truth. I think our generation kind of like barely missed the mark on like being up to date with Terminator. But if you're, a prodigal of the 80s, someone who was into movies in the 80s for sure, I think this is something you could really get excited about. And,
I was there at the beginning. So yeah.
I was just going to say that. I'm sure my dad is going to go see this and love it. I just like didn't grow up with it. So it doesn't resound as much with me.
Yeah.
Did you catch at the end of the trailer, Lily Hamilton plays Sarah Connor, what she said, the tagline she said?
No, what'd you say?
Code TilTruth.
Right there.
Code TilTruth.
I'll be back.
You should make a clip of that.
In the trailer, she says, "I'll be back."
Oh,
which is the tagline of Arnold in the original movie, the one everyone remembers. I'll be. He's looking at the police station. I'll be back.
Yeah. Like I said, I think just for mine and Truth's generation, we grew up in the 90s, so it's not like we were watching, movies like this, or I don't even think my parents let me see the first one. I remember vaguely seeing these movies and knowing how popular they were, knowing that it's like robots and time travel, and like, but never really delving deep into it. This trailer, like I said, makes the series look better. It might make me have to go back and rewatch the original trilogy, if we are gonna go see it. But yeah, so that's kind of where I stand on that.
I don't know if it helps or not, but the original movie came out in 1984.
1984? Yeah, so I wouldn't be born for another 7 years.
So, all right. So this might be more into your time frame, but even though apparently it's a threequel, the threequel is a long time coming after years of delays and setbacks, but now it looks like you'll get what you're looking for. Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in Bad Boys for Life.
Bad Boys, man. Yeah, this is definitely one that we know. Oh, had the music on for it. My bad. But yeah, so Ken, why don't you start this one? You tell us what you thought of this trailer.
It's a funny trailer. I mean, Martin Lawrence, Will Smith are always fun. I didn't see the other two movies. That's why I'm like, okay, might be one of the movies I'll see if I ever get a chance while I'm maybe grinding through WoW Classic on my other screen here. I'm probably not going to go see it in the theater, but it was funny. I mean, it's always entertaining to see those two. I mean, I like Will Smith. Most everything. He's like one of those actors, that no matter what he does, even in a bad movie, I enjoy watching him. So it's like, I thought it entertaining.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think I'll watch anything Will Smith, to be honest. Although, yeah, I wonder how good the content of this will be. Like, it seemed like it would. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be R-rated, and we'll see where that lands. But so from a content-wise, I don't know if I'll be too excited to see it. But I think it'll be. I definitely laughed, like, watching the trailer and seeing these two bicker back and forth is like, that's where the comedy is, of like the comedy action, I think is a genre I particularly enjoy. And so I liked seeing that. And even I'm sure it'll be like kind of a, it's an obvious drum up of success in the past, but I will still buy into that, I think, and watch it at some point.
Yeah.
I will say, being a kid of the '90s, loving everything. Well, that's when Will Smith really hit his stride. Was the mid to late '90s from Independence Day, Bad Boys.
That's my favorite movie.
Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Yeah, Independence Day, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. You just punched an alien, but yeah. So I love him. Like, for whatever reason, I always associate my dad with Will Smith. I don't know. Like, they just have a very similar. I don't know.
That's a positive thing, right?
Yeah. Like, I like Will Smith. Like, my dad's has a very like similar personality to him, so I like him and resonate with him. And Martin Lawrence too. Like, the '90s was his day. Like, do you guys remember he had his own TV show too called Martin? Martin.
Oh right.
Yeah, and I used to love that show.
Watch it, but yeah.
So I grew up with that. Bad Boys. I was like, it's always was kind of cool, the guns and stuff, but I was never really huge on it. This movie just feels like it needed to come out years ago. But I mean, it looks like it could be good. Like Truth said, I don't know how good the content itself is going to be, but I think it could be all right. I don't know. I'm like not going to rush. This is for me more like a $5 Tuesday. If like me and my wife are kind of just walking around, we're like, oh, what are we going to do? And we want to go see a movie. Maybe we go see this. But a lot of people are really excited. They're hoping it starts up Martin Lawrence's career again. So we'll have to kind of wait and see.
Before or after he does some sit-ups.
Yeah.
Well, if Jay's dad looks like Will Smith, that means Jay looks like Jaden Smith, then, huh?
Oh no, please.
It's more like Willow.
I'm Willow. So I wasn't intending on making a reference to the Beatles earlier, but Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Okay, so Natalie Portman is starring in a movie as Lucy Cola, who's an astronaut, as she returns to Earth and struggles to rejoin society and her family. Rather intriguing video, I thought. It looks like an interesting personality piece. What do you think, Jay?
This movie was like, I don't know, it felt to me like this was going to talk and hit on more on like drug addiction, because this girl goes to space, right? Natalie Portman goes to space, and then she's back on Earth, and it's like she's just jonesing. So like, I need the moon, guys. I just need the moon.
Yeah. That's a good point. I like your analogy.
I don't know. Like, it was, I guess it's interesting. It'll be cool to kind of see. But yeah, that's just what I felt the whole movie was on. She's like, well, if I was a man, you guys let me go to space, but I just need space, guys. I need space. But yeah, that was my initial reaction. Natalie Portman, I'm glad to see she's, doing some other stuff. My favorite thing about this movie though is this right here. Nick Offerman in a wheelchair.
Oh, that's him.
Yeah, that's Parks and Recreation.
I kind of look like. Okay.
So if anything, I think he might make the movie. It looks like he's playing a more serious role. But I like him as an actor. I like what he's done in Parks and Rec. I want to see more of him in other stuff. So this could be a good movie for him. Truth, what do you think about this?
I don't know. I feel like honestly, this didn't appeal to me very much. Like the retro astronaut like shtick has been done like 3 or 4 times now, and this is like number 5, like in the movie chain of like.
It's true.
Yeah, just like I don't know. I think it's overdone and like a little too late to the scene, in my opinion. So whether it's good or not, who knows? I don't have necessarily an opinion either way. I probably won't watch this one. But yeah, that's my reaction.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Yeah, they imply there's something else going on here, some kind of other, like mystery or secret that isn't just about her going back up again. But I don't know. Like I said, it's got the nice big names, John Hamm and Natalie Portman. But yeah.
I probably won't see this only because if I do ever go see movies in theaters, it's always with my wife. And for whatever reason, she cannot stand Natalie Portman. She thinks she's a horrible actress. I don't mind her as much, but like, yeah, my wife does not like her. So all right.
So Mr. Jones was saying she has my haircut from high school. And apparently Alan is whelmed. Alan is not overwhelmed or underwhelmed, but he's whelmed for Bad Boys.
Yeah, I kind of felt that too, and was in that same boat. Like I'm not hating the trailer necessarily, but I'm not super excited for the movie itself. I'm like, it's a $5 Tuesday for me. That's like right in the middle. It's not like I'll watch it if it's on TV, or forget about it in 5 minutes. And it wasn't. I need to go see this opening night, So, but.
Matt was saying, anyone remember Portal 2? Space. Right. Natalie Portman's best movie is Leon the Professional, which was a great movie, by the way. But that's pre Star Wars, man.
Yeah, it was. But all right, let's keep moving on then, because I want to make sure we get to movies. Yep. Let's talk some movie news here, guys. Movies that tie into theme park attractions. If you guys ever been to Universal Studios, Disney World, Disneyland, you guys have seen this. They've added in Harry Potter stuff. They've added in a bunch of new rides, but already people are saying that people just aren't lining up the way they used to for roller coasters here, because we had two major theme parks that added in some new rides here. We had Disneyland and Disney World. It was the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge Land. And for Orlando Studios Resort, it was a new attraction of Hagrid's Magical Creature Motorbike Adventure. So with those two out there, it just didn't seem like people were lining up. Guys, is this too little too late? Is kind of the Harry Potter hype gone? And Star Wars, like, people didn't come to the park the way that they thought they would to come see this opening ride. Ken, you're the one who wrote this article, so we'll kind of go straight to you. Or not wrote it, but found it. What did you think about this? If you wrote this, it'd be kind of funny.
On one level, since I'm going to Disneyland in 2 weeks, I'm like, great, no crowds. I can walk around Galaxy's Edge with no problem. And I could care less about the Hagrid's one directly. But what got me was, like I said, maybe a little too late. The Star Wars one, I think, but you're still seeing the after effect of what happened with Solo in Episode 8. And everyone's reaction to what Disney has done. So I think if JJ pulls it off with Episode 9, you might see people back in again. I'm wondering if it's just temporary. You'll see people flock into it later on. I'm say for me, I'm happy. I'm going to go see it in a couple of weeks, so at least it won't be as crowded. I'm gonna geek out. I'm the generation who was raised on the original trilogy, so this is probably more for me than the younger generation.
True. Truth, how do you guys go and visit, Orlando? I mean, you're going to be down at TwitchCon, not that that's super, super close, but have you guys gone to like these roller coasters before? Have you been to these attractions?
I haven't for the longest time. I did growing up, and so obviously I loved it as a kid, but I haven't been since I've been out my own now. And so I could see to touch on like the Harry Potter bit. I think it's definitely late in terms of hitting the scene. I feel like this, and even like Hagrid specifically doesn't seem like the right character to key on, but I don't know. They obviously went that direction and felt like it was more relevant for, I don't know if it's the newer movies. I literally haven't even seen the newer movies. So maybe that's just telling it itself of maybe it is the right thing to do. But I think sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, but I do think the Star Wars one, it kind of surprised me that it's not as relevant. Maybe that's people can get just as much entertainment at home on their couch or in their living room or, whatever. They don't feel the need to go out and go to these types of things anymore. I'm not sure. Whereas like in years past, you couldn't get the same quality of entertainment. You did have to leave like growing up in the 90s, but it was more, people just went outside more, but now people can access a lot of these things just from their house. I don't know. It's kind of an interesting maybe culture shift more so than like the quality of the attraction. I'm sure it's crazy cool and awesome. And in fact, I was even thinking about maybe we could make a trip there when we are in near Disneyland, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I was that's what I was kind of going to hit on and ask. Do you guys think, in chat, let us know too, do you guys think like maybe just the generation of like having big roller coasters and going to these big events, like people just aren't, especially kids, aren't really drawn to it. So parents aren't really like going to spend that extra money or spend that expense when they can just go, oh, we can let our kids play Fortnite, and that's just as exciting for them as like going to an amusement park and paying, $90 a person, plus hotel, plus all this. So what do you guys think? Like, do you guys think amusement parks are kind of dying, or do they just need to drop prices? Like, Ken, what do you think, as you've lived the longest to see this all play out?
Well, I mean, everything in life seems to have cycles, right? So it makes you wonder if we're seeing just a little dip right now. You're right about the cost, right? I mean, like Alan says, like how much it costs to go for a family of 3 at Disney. I mean, it's definitely unless you live there for season passes, you have to it has to be an event to make a plan for it. I went to Disney World during Guardian Con, and it didn't look empty. I mean, so maybe there's a difference, because I know the Disney World's version of Galaxy Edge has not opened yet, and they're opening it up in the Hollywood area, Disney's Hollywood So I'm wondering if you're seeing the reaction to Southern California's version of it, because we have seen a lot of people moving out of California. We've seen some problems with the economy there. So maybe it's less of the drought of Star Wars or just the whole galaxy as of me just seeing Southern California seeing some changes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the fix is necessarily for this. I think for a lot of people, it'd probably be dropping the price a ton. But I think their idea is if we add new attractions, that justifies keeping prices where they are. You know, because like you said, somebody will come out and see this.
Yeah, well, Disneyland to me, I know it's like over $100, you know, per person, you know, and it's still a great bargain in my opinion. Even though I went there, was it like 3-4 years ago with my brother got married down there, so me and my family went there, so 6 of us going to Disneyland was rather pricey, but it was worth it.
Yeah, but all right, well, we'll have to keep up and see what happens with these guys. We'll kind of see. Maybe it'll pick up, maybe it's just too early. A lot of people think that that's the case, but moving on with news. Marvel reveals Star Wars canon about Kylo Ren. Can you and Matt, this was like bread for you and Matt to kind of sweat out for a few minutes. So I'm just going to take the step back. I'm going to put the camera on you and I'm just going to let you go to town with this.
So I read Marvel comics and especially the Star Wars stuff. And so I read some of this stuff. I'm like, oh, look at this. They're putting canon into comic books. And like, okay, so this is like, I read recently, I think it was the end of the Galaxy Edge five shot stuff. And they show, you know, Ren on the bridge of his ship. This is post Snoke, right? And so I'm like, wait a minute. So where exactly is episode 9 falling into this? I mean, we knew that episode 8 was right after episode 7. So apparently episode 9 is not going to be right after episode 8. We're going to see some time lag. But it's interesting how Marvel is working with Disney. Obviously, they're bought by the same company, and actually putting that stuff into the whole canon. So they're little teasers, okay? And so the whole idea, also they talk about, hey, did Kylo Ren actually go to Dagobah? I mean, that was like, I didn't buy that one. I haven't seen that one yet. So, but that's like, wait, why would Ren go to Dagobah? Dagobah was where Luke went to visit Yoda and got trained. That's where, you know, he had to face his dark side stuff. So I don't know. It's all this stuff makes you like get ready for the movie episode 9, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. The most interesting thing about Kylo Ren to me is kind of seeing some more of the lore. If they do more stuff, if it's on Disney Plus, probably the most interesting thing out of this series would be the Knights of Ren. I just think that would be really cool to kind of see more of that and hear more about that thing. But aside from that, I'm like, okay, cool. There's more information on him. Kind of have to see how it plays out. Truth, are you? I don't think we have never asked you before. Are you a Star Wars fan? Are you big?
I am a Star Wars fan. Yep.
Was this something that like intrigued you when you heard about the news? Like Ken said, did it get you hyped for like the coming up movie?
Not necessarily. I think that like I am a Star Wars fan and I will like 100% see the movie and be excited to see it and like really get into it. But I don't know if I don't know. Like seeing news updates or trailers, it's kind of like a null point. Like I'm just excited to see the movie. I don't know. It doesn't necessarily change my opinion one way or another. But when it comes to like comic books or canon or lore leading up to it, like that, it doesn't matter to me. I think I just enjoy watching the movies, and that's like I'm content with like that experience once I go there.
Gotcha. Yeah. Have you enjoyed the new trilogy?
I have. Yeah. I do like it. I think it's interesting to see the different characters play out, and I'm excited to see how Kylo comes back into the fold here. Yeah, I don't know what will happen, and I think that's like the fun part about it. I think that it's kind of interesting that they've like specifically like kind of almost toggled between directors. I don't know if I necessarily like that. I'd rather have just like one man leading the way or the action, but that way it seems kind of a little more like one seamless story moving forward. But I don't know. It's what it is. Probably some inner politics at work, but
yeah. So chat's asking, so you like the last main saga one, the Last Jedi one? I mean, it's okay too. Yeah, if you like it, you like it.
No, I do. I was just like trying to think back on like what happened. Yeah, I do. Yeah,
it ends with the little boy looking out in space and then like using the Force to grab a broom. That's the most iconic thing I think I could think of about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you like about that one? That really drew, that was good for you, that you were like, oh, this is what made this movie for me.
I don't know if it's necessary. Honestly, I don't know if it's necessarily the content, but just more like the nostalgia fact of like, okay, Star Wars is back. Like I distinctly remember going to like late night premieres with my brother and my dad, and like we'd line up and like get our popcorn and snacks and be like, okay, we're like, and we'd come home like so excited, like we just saw the newest Star Wars movies. These are episodes like 1, 2, and 3, like
yeah. So the prequels is what you went and saw in theaters with your parents. And
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And so like it's kind of like that nostalgic feeling of like I'm super excited and want to see any new Star Wars movie that comes out. My wife could probably care less, but I think it's probably more of a nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
But not necessarily like a quality of movie.
Okay,
Yeah.
I get that. Just curious. I think chat was like, wait, what about it does he like? So I just wanted to kind of ask for them.
Yeah.
Alan says the most iconic thing from that movie was blue milk straight from the tap. Yeah. Well, I guess also it's where Luke dies. Spoiler alert, or as far as we know, he's dead. But all right, we have one more big news topic for movies before we move on to gaming. And guys, it is official. The CEO of Sony went on Variety the other day, literally, I think it was yesterday, and said, for now, the door has officially closed. Spider-Man will not be going back to the MCU. He says they have a lot of things in the work. They were planning 6 live-action television shows that they're going to be releasing. We don't know on what, whether it's going to be on basic cable, whether Sony's going to come out with their own streaming service, but they're really excited and I think going to be building up now, trying to build their Spider-Man universe, but still keeping Tom Holland in the realm. So we hate to be the bearer of bad news. Ken, you saw this yesterday. What did you think about this new Spider-Man not coming back to the MCU?
Well, I mean, you read the different articles, right? One article says Disney wanted a whole boatload of money. Okay. And then you hear articles, well, they wanted a little more money. And you're like, but they already own the rights to all the toys. And you're like, wait a minute, what? And so you're like, okay, I get corporate people want to keep increasing profits, right? But I'm like, you had to go for the jugular. I mean, it sounds like they could have very well just said, like, hey, we like what's going on here. We'll keep working with you and let's move forward. Versus like, we want 25% of the profits, but we're also going to give you 25% of the money to make the movies too. So it wasn't like it was a flip side, like just the profits, nothing else. But Sony's like, no. Now, like, but the Sony, yeah, you've done some decent stuff with the Spider-Man over the year, Tobey Maguire. We're not going to argue about the other guy, okay? But your work with Tom Holland has been in direct coordination and working with Marvel. Your success is because of Marvel. Now, Marvel might say, hey, look, all your success is because of us, so you better give us more money. I don't know. To me, corporate people talking a war over a franchise.
Yeah.
Down the road, it won't matter because who's going to care? We'll just go see the movie anyways.
Yeah. I can appreciate Sony sticking up and not letting Marvel just bully them into like giving, because what Marvel wanted is they wanted 30% of basically everything Spider-Man. So not like Spider-Man universe. So not just Spider-Man himself in the main movies, but Into the Spider-Verse, they wanted 30% of Venom, 30% of anything else Sony would have produced and made. Sony's like, hey, we'll give you 30% of the money to make it. We want 30% of the profits. And that's kind of crazy to me. But Truth, I'm sure you've probably at least heard or seen some of this. What did you think about this? Does it make you sad? Are you happy, Spider-Man's going to go off and kind of have his own lead and focus here now? What did you think?
Yeah, I promise I didn't wake up on the wrong side of the bed this morning, but I really just don't care. I could care less. Like I'm not a Marvel fan at all. I'll watch the Marvel movies as they come out, but I'm not. Yeah, it doesn't really matter to me. I feel like there's been literally 100 Spider-Man movies, and that's just like my blunt opinion. So
yeah. No,
here comes 100 more, I guess.
Yeah.
That's like what I'm like pulling out of it.
No, that's totally fine. Right. As long as they bring back Uncle Ben and kill him one more time, I think that's what everybody just really wants to see. They kill that son of a gun right dead in the middle. I think that.
There you go, Ken. There's your acting career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. Tomissa Tomei is Aunt May, so she's like 60 years younger than Ken. So I don't know. She's just really into older men, I guess. But hey,
I thought Marissa was my age.
Is she? Is she 55? No, I don't.
Take a look.
Are you looking it up right now, Ken?
Yeah, it was. She's 3 months younger than me.
There you go. You know,
born in the same year.
Hollywood magic, man. We can make it work.
There we
Let's
go.
start a petition, guys. Online
There you go.
petition to get Ken as Uncle Ben in the next Spider-Man movie, so we can kill him off.
Draft it now.
Yeah.
You can
There you
get
go.
16 signatures right here.
There you go. But yeah, so I don't know. I mean, in one hand, I'm excited to kind of see what they can do with Spider-Man on their own, with him being kind of the lead center. I just hope Sony doesn't drop the ball on it. I think they're really being really ambitious, and they have like one Venom movie in, and they're like, "Yep, we have a universe. We have Spider-Man now back. We have Venom. Let's make this happen." And so when I looked at the clause, I think it said something like the TV rights to make shows is split between Marvel, Disney, and Sony.
Oh,
And so Sony can make, if I remember the thing right, Sony can make 30-minute dramatic live action shows. So as long as they're 30 minutes long and mostly dramatized, they can make live action Spider-Man stuff. Marvel, Disney can make hour-long cartoons. So that's why you see like all those cartoon shows are all on Disney XD or whatever it is. And they can make that. So on the Disney, so what that means for the Hulu service or Disney Plus, they're going to have a What If series, and they're going to have one specifically on Spider-Man. So they're able to still kind of have Spider-Man, but just not live action anymore. They're going to have the rights to them animated. So if you're thinking about getting Disney Plus, that's going to be on there for you guys. And you can still kind of see him on those things. So I don't know who will voice him. It'd be cool if they get Tom Holland back, but all right, that was everything we have for movie news. And now let's talk about something where I want to hear Truth's most blunt, honest thoughts on. I think from when the time Fortnite kind of originated and started, I think there's always been those people that just, maybe because they can't build, they could never get the mechanics, or they just didn't like the style of Fortnite, have always kind of hated on it and have watched from a distance waiting for this game to finally die. And we talk about it, I think, here maybe like once every other month of like, is this what's going to kill Fortnite? Is this? And with season 10, I think they had a lot of high hopes. They had a lot of thoughts, a lot of cool ideas that they're trying to implement here. But it seems like more and more big streamers are pulling away from Fortnite, kind of diversifying and trying out some other games. This is a very similar time, at least in my mind, to when Destiny 2 kind of launched, and it wasn't as great as people were hoping, and everyone was kind of looking for new homes. But Truth, this has been like your main game since you started streaming. What do you think about where Fortnite's at right now? Is it dying, and how do we fix it if we can?
Well, one, I just want to point out our number one fan in Kennethan over there. He literally got up to go get his foam fingers.
I just thought he didn't want to. I thought he didn't just want to be in the conversation. You have two of them.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's a true fan right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing because they when they put out a new update, they'll say they're like appealing to the masses. In terms of like adding a brute. It's crazy to see that like, revert turbo building, remove the mech, like trending #1 in the US on Twitter. Like obviously there's a crazy passion influence for the game still, but if they keep putting out updates like that, like they're just gonna kill the game in my opinion. Where it's just, if you have your largest influencers, like if you think of like the free PR they got on a daily basis for like a year, they literally had like 300,000 people watching their game day in and day out, on Twitch alone, yet alone, like, a lot of people don't even watch on, live streamers. And to have that like shift to like all of a sudden all of them don't want to be playing the game anymore, I think that's a real problem. Because their quality of playing the game has gone down, and it's maybe gone up for the person on Xbox or PS2 playing the game for the first time, right? Some guy's on his Palm Pre enjoying his like Fortnite gaming experience, but like I don't think that's like a long-term growth plan. I think they've like suddenly realized that in the last month. That I think there is tangible value in like growing a competitive scene, and yeah, but then like on the same vein, I think it's also a terrible gaming experience for someone that isn't able to put a lot of time in the game and isn't able to practice building, because it has grown and so advanced. And like, frankly, I think they just need to accept that. Like, it's going to be difficult if you don't practice or don't play a lot, because I don't know if you can have both. You kind of have to like weigh the pros and cons. And but it sounds like they've almost tried to take that hard stance of like, we want to appeal to the brand new player, but then all of a sudden they flip-flopped back to like, okay, JK, we want to appeal to the content creators and the more competitive scene. And so I don't really know who to trust or what to believe. I think they really need like I've said it for a while now, and League of Legends kind of went through a similar thing of like they'd have like a review team or test servers, and it was like talked about, and they said, okay, before going live, you can play on the PBE, the public beta server, and like test these things out and give us feedback on what you like or don't like. And they were, you know, getting ex pros and whatnot to like fill these voids and give feedback on what they thought about the changes going forward. I think Fortnite needs to do a similar thing, because there's no way that like specifically even that building delay, I mean, it was just terrible for everyone, whether you're good or bad or not. Like even if you're a bad player, turbo building helped you because you could just spam build walls if something that was coming at you. But then with that change, you could only build one, and like then that was it. And you were pretty much dead. And so I don't know, food for thought. I do think specifically around the timing of like kind of like Fortnite declining, I think it'll stay until something else great really comes along. Obviously WoW Classic has put a dent in it. These large content creators aren't playing it anymore, but that's because they grew up playing WoW Classic, and this is like a nostalgic thing for them, and Fortnite's not in the best spot, so it's a natural transition for them to hop off. And I'm looking specifically for the new Halo games to really kill it, to kill Fortnite specifically. I think like with the old Halo games coming to PC, like almost all of those guys, you know, I'm thinking of the top streamers, Ninja, Tim the Tatman, Lupo, etc., and even some of these other guys. I don't necessarily know the gaming background of some of the other content creators, but I feel like just a nostalgic FPS rebuff of Halo will be huge. And then I think there's even a new Halo game in like 2020 or something like that coming out. So I think that'll like put this, you know, the stake in the coffin, so to speak, of Fortnite. So that's my prediction.
Yeah. Has it made you kind of sweat? Like, have you already kind of been trying to distance yourself from it, you know, like, and kind of start looking at other games? And because really, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, like as far as I've known you, you've mainly played Fortnite, like as that's like been your only game, and you kind of really felt called to like, hey, this is a good place to kind of reach kids and connect with them because it's so popular. And and that's kind of been your main thing, you know. And now I know for me when it was Destiny, and I was like seeing how popular I could get with that game, when that kind of died out, there was a part of me that was like, man, I really hope they're gonna fix this. But after like 2 or 3 updates, seeing that it's just declining, and clearly the quality of the content isn't what's there, they're just really focused on the microtransactions, I was like, you know what, it's okay if this game has to die for a while to make the third one really good. And that's when I really started to go, okay, what else can I play? And that's when Fortnite actually took off. And so that's when we were like, all right, let's do that for a bit. Are you at that place where you want Fortnite to die, or are you kind of holding hope that they revamp it and fix it up?
I'm definitely holding hope that they fix it. But I think that's more my personality of like, I'll play a singular game for a really long time. Like my gaming career, right, or games I've played for an extended amount of time, I'm not a variety gamer at all. Like I've played like 5 games total my whole life, basically, in terms of like sustained amount of time. And you know, and I've dabbled in, like, I played a little bit of Realm, right? And so I was like, oh, I'll play Realm basically just to play something else, because I think Fortnite was in such a terrible spot. And then they, you know, reverted some of those changes they made, and played a little bit of Teamfight Tactics just because it's less intensive, you know, as I'm like streaming all day, right? And so I have thought, just from like a health perspective, I need to play different things, or, you know, mentality's sake. But I am really holding out that Fortnite will kind of right the ship and figure out what's going on, because I think the draw is still huge and wide. And yeah, I don't anticipate myself leaving anytime soon, but who knows? You know, they could drop another patch and keep it that way for 3 weeks. Like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy to think that they've like, in my mind, they've tried to sink the ship so hard a few times, and it still hasn't sunk. Like, it's kind of crazy that like, and I think that's a byproduct of there's not other competition in the scene. There's not another like great alternative.
Right.
Gears 5, isn't it? WoW Classic will like stay for a while, right? But then, in my understanding, maybe Kennethan can help me out here, like, you hit a certain level and that's it, right? And so maybe once that hard grind leveling is done, and 3 months from now, is WoW Classic still going to be huge? I don't know.
Yeah. Ken, what did you think?
I thought one of the things that people always touted Fortnite as being a a game that will last or might have some legs is because they keep doing these different updates or these changes, trying different things. They're willing to try new idea to see how it plays out. I mean, if season 10 is like not hitting it, then season 11 might, right? I mean, that's the whole point of Fortnite, is always trying these new ideas. That's what kept people playing the game, I thought. That's why I'm curious when you said, oh, okay, season 10 is terrible, so therefore we're quitting. But what about season 11?
Yeah.
And you're right about WoW. You hit a certain point, you start grinding. You're like, hey, what's remaining of this? I do that with my friend playing Champions Online. The max level you get is 40. There's no real in-game content. So what do? I just hang out with my friend because he likes making characters. But I'm like, this is not a game that has legs going forward, I think.
Yeah, I think the issue.
Why is it so dipped down on season 10 or Fortnite overall, I guess?
Yeah, I think part of it is like one of the huge benefits Fortnite has had over every other game right now is that they kind of realized that the major rules for like beta games, I guess, because that's what Fortnite's still not an official like full title, guys. It's in beta, and with that, there's different regulations and rules, so they can have patches and updates and changes. And they don't have to go through the same regulations that full price $60 games have to go through. And I think that's worked in their favor in a lot of ways to quickly change, the damage of a shotgun, or like you said, with turbo building or anything like that. And when the structure of the game, when everyone's having fun and kind of enjoying it for the most part, when they do big things, like when they did Marshmallow, that big event and everything like that made the game. And I remember saying like, this is why people keep coming back to this game, is because they're constantly evolving, constantly changing things. The issue with season 10 right now is that a lot of the structural things that people aren't enjoying with mechs, with just the way, with the guns that we have, with no mobility, all of those things are affecting people who want to play. So they try to do something similar to like Marshmallow, not as big with like Major Lazer, was it? Where they had his skin and his pack and all that stuff, but it just wasn't as at least personally, and I know for most of my friends, nobody bought those skins. Nobody kind of did that. I don't even know if they did a concert like they did with Marshmallow, or if it was just kind of like this exclusive skin and emote for the time. But it didn't seem to land this one around. And like you said, maybe season 11 will be better. Maybe they keep implementing in new things. They just put in a Borderlands area, which I thought was cool. And did they bring back the prison? I saw something on Twitter yesterday, but I haven't checked it out yet.
Maybe they are like they have an It crossover right now. So I think they're like, whoever's doing like their crossover, PR connection group is like crushing it. Like, it's actually super sad. I don't play Borderlands, but I recognize having Borderlands like content 3 like in your game, like that's super cool, but it's like terribly timed because your game update team is like sinking the ship intentionally. They're like scuttling it, like, all right, see ya, let's see how quickly we can sink this and make it like terrible to play. But then you have like an awesome crossover at the same time. I think they should have gotten a lot more publicity and like kudos for like doing those types of events, because I think you're right, that's what keeps it new and fresh. And I would love to see continued connections. I'd love to see a Halo crossover. I'd love to see like those, whatever it may be, playing like the current events of the day. Because I think that keeps it exciting for people that aren't as into the competitive scene or whatever.
Yeah, I do think that whoever, like you're saying, whoever is doing that, whatever department that is, that PR department that's like using and doing all this crossover stuff, like they deserve a raise. That's, I think, what's keeping the people that are still playing at this point there to like, oh, like there's something new. There's always something to check out, which is really cool. But yeah, the bones of just the game is not in a great place, and it's causing, I think, a lot of people to kind of be done. You can only get hurt so many times by a game or be fed up by like bad updates before you're just like, okay, I'm done. Like just forget it. Like clearly, if this is the relationship bouncing back and forth between like a good season, a bad season, a good season, a bad patch note, like people want something that's consistent and good. And I think Fortnite's still trying to figure out how to balance that between good players and bad players. And Destiny was the same thing with good and bad players, but also having a PvE and PvP section. Bouncing back and forth between that. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. I do think the Borderlands 3, though, like I love the art style of Borderlands. So when that came into Fortnite and you see that change, I thought that was super cool. Like a lot of the things I really like about this season, what they're doing with it, just not the mechanics of the game themselves, So how do they fix it, Truth? What do they do? How do they?
Well, I would say I'm probably leaning more on the competitive side, even though I'm not like a competitive player. I guess I'm just competitive by nature, and so I want to like always have like the best things available to me. I think Honestly, right now, I think it's in a fine spot. They're gonna like continue to tweak guns and remove things. Like yesterday, they suddenly just vaulted the combat shotgun, which a lot of people have gotten used to, and so there's different like changes week to week like that. I think my biggest gripe with it right now is the lack of mobility. There was a ton of it in the previous season, and they kind of like it was almost a build-up point to like where you had lots of ways to move from one part of the map to the next with the storm coming, right? And now, I mean, this whole season, I feel like I've been doing a running simulator. There's really awkward scenarios where you just end up dying because you have no way to get to the next circle. And so I think they need to add a little bit more of that back. And I think continuing to make like, I have no problem with them massively changing points of interest on the map. In fact, I think they didn't do enough of that this season. They've slowly, their like thing was like they're going back in time and they're bringing back older seasons of Fortnite. And so if you played in seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, you're going to start seeing your favorite spots come back, which is kind of a cool thing. But I personally enjoy more the drastic, like half the maps change, all these new locations, everyone's got to like come up with a new strategy. I like that more, and so I'm looking forward to season 11. I actually heard, this is like my weird flex in the moment, but I was talking with Lupo about it, and he was saying like, "Hey, this is like, you know, people think season 10 is going to be cool," which I don't think anyone's really said that now in retrospect. But season 11 is supposed to be like insane, and so that was like his quote of like, you know, he's talking to game developers, whatever, and like season 11 is supposed to be absolutely nuts, and I don't know. I have little faith in, you know, whoever is saying that on Epic's side, but it's kind of an interesting bit. So who knows? I'm still holding my breath, hoping that things will change. I don't know how long this season goes for. It seems like it's been going for forever, but it's been a rough one, I think, in their eyes too.
Yeah. I think they, you know, obviously they don't want to make a game that sucks and that they lose people on. So hopefully, I'm hoping that this bad season just equals and means that season 11 is going to be even better, you know? Yeah. Really, I think at the heart, they just need to add more skins in, like we were talking about earlier. And I think everything will be fine. Yeah, more monetization. It worked for Destiny. You know, they had microtransactions, they had DLC, they had an annual pass, they had add-ons, they had individual purchases you can make. So, yeah, I just think that's what Fortnite really needs to get that money in to be able to, you know, hire some people to make a. They're
going to be like, game. Truth, you want to get from one side of the map to the other? Pay your fare, like pay for your teleportation.
There you go. Yeah. Hey, buy a Rift that you can use anytime in any game for $10 right now. Pack of 10.
This reminds me, there was a game called Star Wars Galaxy. It's an MMO game that they put a patch out that wrecked the game. People hated it. Okay, it destroyed the game. And people point to that as being the reason why the game got yanked or finally got pulled. But ultimately, what killed it was that Lucasfilm pulled the rights, okay, so they wanted to go somewhere else. But I think that at times for developers, they tried to do the right thing. They're not idiots. They're not trying to kill the game. They tried to do their hardest to make a game as pleasant for everyone involved. And sometimes they go too far, making it pleasing for everyone, then nobody likes it at all. And I get the biggest thing, I think, for Epic and for Fortnite people, and I'm hoping that this is going to happen because if they want to continue legs, that recognize you screwed up, make amends, and move on. I think the worst thing in the world is when someone says they screwed up and they make all their excuses as to why, like when Final Fantasy 14 was first coming out before they did the Reborn, they had no jumping. And the devs were like, yeah, well, because players don't want to jump in game. And the player base was like, you've got to be kidding me. Okay, they like, you have no idea what the players want. If you're telling us we don't want to jump in game, hit that space bar and jump. So if the devs want to say, well, we screwed up, try something new, let's move on, great.
Yeah, I think that was definitely something that I think killed Destiny 2 for a long time, is that they wouldn't, like, things are fine. You know, it's that meme where like the guy sitting at the coffee table, the little dog, and there's just flames everywhere. It's like, this is fine, this is okay. You know, like not addressing, not living in reality. But hopefully, I think Fortnite's a little bit more self-aware than that. So hopefully they'll kind of address some of this and make it better either for the last half of the season. I think there's like a month left because the next thing that they have coming up is they have like the Halloween stuff, and then they start the Christmas season, I think in November is typically how it goes.
Okay.
But yeah, if I remember right, because the Halloween stuff's kind of the last leg of whatever current season, and they start the new in November for Christmas. All right, that was kind of everything we had there with kind of that. Let's move on to our spotlight section. Guys, this is the segment where we talk about our guests and kind of put the spotlight on them to kind of hear their testimony, hear how God has kind of called them into the ministry that they're in here and now, and just kind of give them a moment to share how God is working in and through them. So we're going to hand this over to Truth. Truth, start wherever you would like, man, but maybe, you know, with your testimony first, and then we can go into your ministry aspect as well.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So like, I'll give you the brief elevator pitch of my testimony. I grew up in a Christian home where I was more or less expected to be like at church every Sunday. Like it was like, okay, now we're gonna get it for church. And I even remember as like a kid, like we would always try and get out of it. You know, as a kid, you don't necessarily like recognize like, why do we have to be at church on Sunday, or why do we have to go to Sunday school, or I'm tired, I want to sleep in. And you know, like I definitely like live that part. And it was even more so to like give you a picture of it. It was kind of like a Christian bubble in some ways of like, I went to a Lutheran grade school, a Lutheran high school, and then like, you know, we're at church every Sunday and we're going to like, you know, youth group during the week. And so like, I didn't really know like what the world was actually like outside of like my smaller town. I wouldn't say it's small town. It was kind of like a small to medium sized world. And so
yeah,
kind of knew, but didn't. And so, I'm just trying to paint the picture of like what my foundation was. And like, I really just grew up kind of doing the right things. And like, I, you know, was doing what I was taught. And, but like the proof is in the pudding. When I went to college, you know, I can count on like one hand the number of times I actually like went to church in like my years at college. And so like the faith wasn't my own, was like my point of saying that. Like I didn't truly, I absolutely had the head knowledge. I had like, you know, stories memorized, verses memorized. Like I knew these things, but like when it came to like living it out and acting on that, that was a whole different story. And so after a long tumultuous time at college, and even outside of college, I was heavy into like the party scene and everything that comes along with that. Like, and I'll spare you guys the dirty details here today, but like definitely was living far from God and who he was and who he wants me to be.
That's the only reason we brought you on, was for the dirty details.
Give me the stories. Yeah. So it really came to a point where I looked at, you know, who my roommates were at the time and who my friends were at the time. And, you know, and I say this with love, really. And even though it might not come across to that, I was like, this is going like nowhere fast. Like I need to kind of like get out of this, and just kind of saw the trajectory of my life and where I was heading. And I didn't want to be a part of it. And so I, you know, and not coincidentally at the time I had started going to a large church in my area that was like, for me, I saw it as like this big and exciting and a place to like meet new people and look at this like cool production they have and and you know, like that's like draws me in as like the wow factor. But then when I got there, obviously God started to work on my heart over time and really change me and who I am and my motivations for being there, and really getting into a small group and into God's word. And that was like a very transformative time for me. I had a few really good mentors and people that just like spoke wisdom into my life, and eventually challenged me to be a leader. And, you know, as a small group leader, I think that was very specifically a good a training moment for my life. And one like quick story through that is I remember calling one of my mentors and saying like, hey, you know, I'm going through like this really tough thing with one of my small group members. Like, how do I deal with this? You know, like what do I do? And he's like, and it was more of like a wake up call. Like, this isn't easy. Like, I'm not going to give you like a handout moment or like hey, here's how you get out of this scenario. Like, that's what being a small group leader is. Like, you're going to deal with this adversity and tough issues. It's not all going to be easy. You're not going to all have easy conversation, and it's not going to run perfectly. Like, you're going to have to deal with like real life things. I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. It was kind of like a buckle up moment. And so it's not always easy being a Christian or you know, a leader in Christian circles, and we're going to be challenged in our faith and what we think and believe. And I think in just terms of more spiritually speaking, I think like there wasn't like a specific moment where I would say like I recommitted my life to Jesus, but I'm like positive I paid the prayer and believed in him as a child. But I really like came back to it over a series of like 3-4 years, you know, in my adult life now. And so, but that's where I met my wife, and you know, how we got to know each other, and my life has been completely changed since. And even more transitioning to what I do now on a daily basis, when I first started coming to that church, a friend of mine was trying to get me to go on a missions trip, and he's like, "Hey, come on, like let's do it." And I was like, I very specifically told him, I was like, "No, I will not go on a missions trip. Like I'm not gonna ever go on a missions trip. Like that is not something I want to do." And then I sat down with that very same guy, like this past year, and he's like, "Look where you are now. Do you remember when you told me that you'd never go on a mission trip, and now you are saying here you want to be a missionary?" And so it's just funny to think how God works on our hearts and our lives.
But, yeah, for sure. I always ask this question because I'm just curious and I want to know when you first saw Kayla is your wife now, but at the time she wasn't. When you first met her, how did you initially like ask her out? Like, what was the TilTruth move that you did on her?
Yeah,
that won her over.
Yeah, I mean, it was a long sell. It was the long con. It wasn't a short thing by any means.
Persistence.
Yeah, it was definitely persistence. And I think we had when we had first met, we were initially like very interested in each other, and it didn't come to anything. And like I'd honestly kind of like set it aside, like, okay, this is not gonna happen, like we're not gonna date or whatever it is, but we still saw each other like 3 times a week almost. It was just like when I was like super involved in that church and that group and friends group, and so we'd play volleyball together and and she was completely off my radar for a while, and then like 3 or 4 months later she had to very intentionally be like, I remember there was one day we were going to again for like this like 4th of July celebration or something, and she's like, can you come pick me up before that event, like because we lived relatively close together on the way there. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Like I didn't ask
other
why.
side of town, but
yeah, I'm like, why, maybe her car's broken down or something, or or whatever. And like when I got there, I'm like why did you need me to pick you up, like what's going on? And she's like, I just want to spend time with you. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, and that's what it, like at that moment in time, her being very forward was like, okay, I can like ask her out. And and so that's when the she had to drop heavy hints.
Yeah, so she was opening the door for you.
Yeah, more so because I like had kind of like put it on my mind, like, oh, this isn't gonna work, or whatever. She's not interested, and so
yeah. So so the athleticism she kind of saw over time. From what I know about Minnesotans, they all can dance. I mean, look at Calvinist. Yeah. So she saw probably some of your sweet dance moves, and that really won her over.
Mm-hmm.
Now you kind of mentioned it a bit, but I just kind of wanted to ask and see. You said you were kind of going down the wrong path in your mind. You kind of had a day where you just looked around and you kind of looked at your roommates and was like, man, this isn't going anywhere. Was there something like specific? Do you feel like now retrospect and kind of looking back that there was like a moment there where like God kind of showed you like, dude, like what are you doing, or like that really kind of clicked for you and you're like, okay, yeah, I can't do this, I have to be done. Was it just like in conversations with your roommates, or was it like what was that for you, or was there a moment of that?
Yeah, I mean, I do think it was like, so it was over one summer specifically that I was like starting to go to my church here, and like I think I just realized like this is not, I had 2 very different crowds of like drinking, partying, fantasy football, people I worked with, and I was honestly very much even a ringleader in that group. And like, it's like, and then at the other hand, I had my, like church friends and like, people I started getting to know. And I'm sure at the time they're kind of like, who is this like guy like that thinks living this lifestyle is okay? I just didn't like even dawn on me. I think back to some of my initial conversations when I first met people in my church. I'm like, I was such an idiot. Like, what was I thinking? Like, but my heart hadn't really changed yet, and I hadn't like shifted my priorities. And so I don't think it was a specific moment. I think a lot of my story is just like the long grind and gradual change over time. But the specific moment was deciding to like move out of that house. So I lived with like 2 roommates that were like, they're smoking like a ton of pot all the time. And I was just like, I don't want, and I never did myself, but I was like, I just like, don't want to be a part of this. Like, get me out of here. Yeah. And so I left that. And so living then on my own, that's when I finally had a chance to flourish more. And so living on my own, I was then able to, kind of shift friends groups. I didn't see those people day in and day out as much. Then it was more of a change. Yeah. So that was probably more of a defining moment of like, okay, I'm going to move out of this scenario into my own thing.
Interesting. Yeah, it's good, because I think a lot of times people can hear that and they'll think like, oh, it's just this gradual thing. I don't really have to change anything or like be active about it. God's just going to continue to work in my heart and things like, but I think there is that aspect of like, well, if you want change, you have to make change, and you have to really do something different than the usual. If you want to see God be able to move, you have to be willing to take those steps of faith. And, I'm sure that was even financially being a college kid, moving out on your own and not having those other two roommates to kind of help supplement that income of costs and stuff that it was a little hard, but here you are, and you've been now married to Kayla for how long have you guys married? I think you guys are around the same as me and Bethany. So like 3 years?
2 years. Yeah.
2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys have been married 2 years, almost 30. And God puts you on this new track then for online ministry. Like, we've known each other for a little bit now. We're going to be roommates in a couple weeks. What was that journey like for you and how you kind of got into all that? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, a little bit of crazy mixed in, I would say, like off the get go of like, what am I really doing here? But I do think there's also, with crazy, I think there's obviously a huge element of faith of saying like, okay, here I am, Lord, send me, right? I'm ready to go. I'm ready to do this. And so it started in, I think this is a funny story. Kayla probably doesn't think it's very funny at all, but like, it was in the springtime of last year. Was it last year? Yeah, of last year. And I was like, I'm going to go find like a side job or a side hustle or income or whatever it is, just to like save extra money as we want to buy a house someday and da, 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 da. And so I started listening to these different podcasts and talk shows and so on and so forth. And I knew of like streaming and live streaming in general, but I started for whatever reason, probably a much more expensive hobby than like an actual side job in the live streaming space. And so started streaming on Twitch. I saw specifically, I think Pastor Susie was the only one that I really found at the very beginning of like, okay, here's a faith-based streamer. Oh, he's got whatever, I think he had like 70 some people watching him at the time, maybe even less than that. I was like, I can totally do that. Like, that's easy, like no problem. Like I can go out and crush it. And like, little did I know, I realized very quickly how hard it is to actually build an audience and retain viewers and so on and so forth. And so even looking back at where I started my initial like content creation days, I actually did one of my viewers / editors did a recap of like the past year of me streaming, and it looks like so terrible. I'm like kind of like Nick Merckx up in my camera, like you can only see like half my face. I'm in a dark room, the lighting's horrible, and da da da. And so it's cool to see where that's grown over time. But to bring it back to like where's my calling today, and what did that look like? I had frankly like a really good job and where I was at and what I was doing, and like a secure future, but I didn't feel fulfilled in that by any stretch of the imagination. There's many days I was coming home frustrated or sad or just like not even wanting to go in and finding excuses to not go to work. And so I think like as I grew more disgruntled with that, I realized more and more what an opportunity was in front of me of like, okay, there's millions and millions of gamers out there and people to be reached and conversations to be had, and just that conversational evangelism of like, okay, I can really get to know these people and I can form relationships. And I think this year, I thought initially it was going to be a lot more set than it's turned out to be. I thought, okay, here's what I'm going to do. Here's my plan. And here's how I'm going to execute on it. But it's changed a lot. And I've kind of come more to that realization of like, it's not as, it's not something you can just plan out. I'm going to be a content creator. Then I'm going to have 10 viewers. I'm going to have 15 viewers. Then I'm going to have 40 viewers. Then I'm going to it just doesn't work like that. And like, it's going to change and it's going to be different for each person. There's going to be different games that rise to popularity. There's going to be new streaming platforms. There's going to be, all these things at work. And I just need to kind of navigate my way through that and figure out what's the best for me and the best way for, at the end of the day, it's me like, how can I reach more people for Christ, and what's going to be the more effective way of doing that? I still don't think I have that answer. So that's, I'm rambling, but it kind of seems like a rambling project at times. It's always changing and evolving, and it's never going to be set.
Yeah, there's really, I think for any content creator, you ask any of them, even ones that are top dogs right now, whether it's Ninja, whether it's Lupo, whether whoever. I think they'll all say that like they know that there's going to be a day where it's unstable. Their popularity is going to not be able to carry them as far. So they're trying to hustle right now, and be in everything, be broadcasters, be, in commercials, do whatever they can do now to really collect and capitalize on this moment, because It's not promised. One of the biggest things I think that it sat with me that I heard before was, or this was early on, I think in my first year or two, is that like YouTube, Twitch, Mixer, whatever the platform, does not owe you anything. They don't owe you anything. The people that watch you do not owe you anything, and so it's a gift when they do commit their time, their money, their efforts, whatever, into being there and helping you out and, watching you. And so, yeah, just because you're putting in X amount of work doesn't mean the end product's going to equal X amount of viewership or X amount of, cash flow of anything like that. So, yeah, so it is this like, you have to go in there with this mindset of like, hey, here's what my mission is. I'm trying to reach people. And if I make money on this, great, and can do that, awesome. If not. And so you kind of set out, right? You're like halfway through the year of when you've kind of launched about and kind of said, hey, I'm doing this full time. I remember having when we first got to meet around Thanksgiving last year and, talk about a bit more. You're like, I'm going to give it a year and really see if we can build up to it. How has that process been for you since you left your other job, correct? Right. To be able to kind of be on full time now. How has that process kind of been in that aspect of, both your faith, but also, of how that progress has been?
Yeah. I think like I said, I've settled more specifically in the last month or two into like a element of like, this is like discovery of like, how can I do this and how can I make it, like make it in the content creation world in terms of like, whatever success, or as most people would look at like, okay, number of viewers and followers and so on and so forth. Like that's the discovery piece. But when I first started, I had like very specific metrics around like, okay, I realized my wife and I are in a very like blessed scenario to even go after something like this. We don't have a house and kids, and we were sitting well financially. And so like I could do something like this and we're not gonna, become homeless, right? Like I know I would never do anything along those lines. If we were in a scenario like that, I never would have been able to do something like this if we hadn't been as blessed as we are, right? And so I think then I had to have like, okay, well, how am I going to make some sort of residual income? And so I have to like essentially fundraise as a missionary would, because like this is my mission field, this is how I'm going to reach people, and these are the conversations I need to have, and so on and so forth. And then we had very real conversations around like, okay, what dollar amount do we need to get to by a year from now, from whether it's streaming, whether it's from raising support, like, what does that look like? And so we set this specific dollar amount that by like January, or I think it's January 1st, something along those lines. If we're not there, then I'll go back to working part-time, or I'll go back to where I was at in my day job full-time, whatever that looks like as the future unfolds. It's looking like that'll probably be more of a reality of I'll do some sort of like part-time supplemental income, but we'll see. It could completely change like crazy. And I don't know, are you just there? Hello?
Yeah, can you hear us still?
Okay, you're like,
we lost his
Uh-oh, we're losing Truth. Are we losing everybody?
Hello?
Let's see.
Hello? You're garbled.
Hello?
I can hear you guys. Here, let me drop out of the call. Oh wait, hang on. I think it's fixing. We're good. Well, at least Truth's moving.
Maybe. So robotic.
It's Storm. Storm came in and broke everything. No, we're good. Hang on. Let me leave the call and I'll jump back in and see if I can fix it. Let's see. Let's see. It's thinking, guys. I don't know what happened. But Storm, welcome. Know that you're valued and loved, my friend. We appreciate having you here. Dustin, how are you doing today, buddy? I don't know what's going on. We're just getting to the meat of Truth's story here. If you guys are just tuning in here, we are doing Hear Me Out. It's our Friday segment we do every single week. We cover all the news in movies, trailers, games, and then our special guest, whoever it is that week, usually. Hey, there we go. I think we're back.
Okay.
There we go.
Wow.
I dropped it.
That was his way of getting rid of us, okay?
Yeah, I just...
Bye, everyone.
Away, Satan.
Like, wait, Truth's talking about money? Cancel. Slap my screen.
Exactly. You did.
Oh man. But yeah, so you were saying January 1st is kind of, the time.
That's the date I'm like staring down. And I've become more comfortable with like, okay, I think it just the reality of it is, it'll be some sort of part-time job, or maybe it is. I would hope it's something in the content creation space. influencer space. I don't know what that'll be. I've got to kind of keep my eyes peeled for something like that. But I know, like, praise the Lord, I have real skills and experience in the corporate world that I could lean back on if I needed to. And there's just a reality point of, like, we want to have kids and we want to own a home and I want to be able to pay for health insurance. All these things that come to life. And so I think that's just also, like, part of being a provider and husband and leader, that I realized that, like, I can only try this for so long before I need to figure things out. And so that's, like, one thing that I think is often overlooked, of, like, when you're going to become a full-time streamer or content creator, that, like, what's your plan and what's your exit plan, and how are you going to, like, practically do some of these things. You can't just wish and hope or put up a donation goal. Like, that's not it. Maybe I'll look back on this year and be like, I wish I would have done things differently, or, I don't know, who knows how it'll turn out. But I think, I just keep going back to that discovery piece of, like, it's just a lot of trial and error on how are you going to get something to stick or be effective. And
right. So, I mean, not that you have to give, like, dollar amounts, maybe like a percentage. Is it, or even just answering this, maybe, is it realistic, do you think, on the set path that you're on, that you can reach the goal of what you kind of need, or what you kind of agreed upon with your wife, to be able to go, I can actually reach that by January 1st? Like, is that, knowing that God can do anything, knowing that, like, he could drop, $1 billion on you tomorrow if that's really the case. But realistically, just with what you've seen and kind of the track that you've had, do you think that it's still attainable?
I think it's still attainable. Yeah, I do. I mean, I would say I'm about halfway there on where I need to be. But, like, I don't know. God can do anything, right? So I don't want to, like, undersell that, but I don't want to, like, say he's gonna, I just don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. It's been interesting too, because I actually had, like, one specific individual being like, I would love to just, like, fund you and what you're doing. Like, I would just, like, love to cover it, like, the entire thing. I'm like,
and then you realize he's like 12.
No, exactly. And that's why, like, and he's been dodging me and hasn't wanted to, like, talk. So, like, it's more so to the point of, like, I thought this was a legitimate thing, and, like, we had even talked in, like, a video call and And so I do think God can do anything, because I've seen, like, that nearly happen, right? And so I don't know what the future holds, or how God's going to work, and I've just got to be, like, realistic when those times come. So
no, for sure. Last little segment of this, and then we'll move on to our final section here. We'll go back to Ken on talking field agent. Ken, if you have any questions for him too about this, feel free to ask as well. Don't just let me be the one.
Well, all I know is that when I heard about different people wanting to go,
Ken's the guy dodging you.
I asked the question about people having a plan, and I was so grateful that Truth had a plan. And not just that, I mean, we had a one-on-one call. He explained his whole ministry. He had a plan. And I was so grateful that he wasn't just, yes, you should trust God in everything. And sometimes a blind leap of faith is a blind leap of faith, and it pays off. But I also think that God wants us not to also just do it with like jumping into the abyss and, like, oh, well, I guess it is a spike trap at the bottom, I'm dead. Versus, like, hey, I know what's down there, and I'm gonna make all the right choices to make sure that I'm making the right choices. So I thought I was always impressed with him and what Truth's doing in his ministry.
Yeah. Last thing I kind of wanted to ask and just kind of get your thoughts on and kind of see where you're at with this is, obviously, like, we go back a year ago, Twitch was the platform, right? Like, there was really, like, people, like, Mixer was around, DLive was like an up and coming thing, but quickly, I think, has died out as quickly as it showed up. Facebook Live was kind of a joke. YouTube Live was like, but in recent months, this past month, I'd say, with Ninja switching, with Mixer kind of stepping up their game, and they kind of do it every summer, I feel, where they kind of try to grab and contract more bigger streamers and content creators. Has that affected, I know now you're kind of splitting your time a bit between Twitch and Mixer, and where are you kind of at with all of that, and what are your thoughts on it? Is it something that you think will stick permanently, or what? Because I've been talking and just kind of feeling people out of where they're at with it, and I get all across the board answers. So where are you kind of at with it?
Yeah, I think it's such a, like, complicated question, because there's just so many things that, like, come into it. I think, like, competition is good in general. Like, competition breeds excellence, right? Like, if you think of, you have a Target, Walmart, Amazon, they're all pushing each other to get better. Like, yeah, they might be knocking out these little dogs like a D Live, but like they are mutually growing one another. And so I'd love to see more competition just to even hold Twitch accountable. And I think that you've seen that in now all of a sudden they just rolled out channel points. They're like, I feel like almost every other day they're rolling out a new like quality of life update, whether it's moderation tools or so on and so forth. I think before they didn't have to do that because they had no competition. They could do whatever.
Where are they
going to
go?
And so I think you'll see more of that naturally happen over time as they'll try and level the playing field between Mixer or whomever else may come up next. And you even see them buying out like a 30 to come over to Twitch. I think when I saw that actually made me a little sad. I'm sure he had a huge payday and I'm sure he'll make more as a content creator, but it ruins the competition aspect of, he's pulling 20,000 viewers on YouTube. Now he's pulling 20,000 more on Twitch. And I think Amazon/Twitch decided to break out the checkbook and start paying some people to come over. And so it's interesting to see that specifically. I think from my perspective, and it's going to be absolutely different for everyone. It's hard because I put in like a year of time on Twitch, 4,000 followers on Twitch. There's my flex moment of the day, and kept a healthy amount of subs. But like at the end of the day, like I wasn't there at year one on Twitch. You see a Ninja, a Lupo, they've been 7, 8, 9 years on the platform. They've grown with it as a natural byproduct. They may have blown up with the rise of Fortnite, but you see a lot of these guys that have streamed from that platform on day one really grow with the platform. And a lot of podcasts that you listen to or articles on different social media platforms, if you're with like a Twitter, Instagram year one, you're going to grow. If you put out consistent content and have a mediocre following, you're just going to grow with that platform. Right. And I see a similar trend available on Mixer for people looking to do that. If you're really going to grind it out, content creation is going to be a grind. Streaming is going to be a grind, whether you're on Twitch or on Mixer. They're both going to be a grind. And I think if my goal personally is to reach as many people as possible with the name of Jesus Christ, I'm going to see more success on Mixer in my opinion, at this point in time. That could change. Mixer could sink, they could sell, Twitch could buy them out. You have no idea what could happen. But I think that's like just from a discoverability algorithm standpoint. And there's different things that like have juiced me to where I'm at in my brief moment on Mixer, but like it's I think that's like kind of the baseline of it. I do think there's some nice quality of life things that they have going for them that probably won't be unique to them in the near future. But the fact that there's just like less competition and less like quality competition, frankly, on Mixer at the moment, I think it's a unique like value proposition. And those people that went to Mixer even 3 or 4 months ago are just like high-fiving themselves because they were able to scoop with that rise of Ninja moving over, and there's a natural trickle-down effect. But yeah.
Sorry, I'm laughing at chat. Like, I don't know if you've been ignoring it, but
yeah, I haven't been reading it.
It's fine. It's nothing important, but
there's this YouTube video I watched, okay, and it talked about the fact that, sometimes the biggest influencers on certain platforms are those who hit the curve going up.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, yeah. For sure.
And timing. I mean, mind you, they're also good in the fact that, one, they put their audience or their communities on a pedestal. They weren't looking at the community, put them on a pedestal. They were gracious in giving back, whether it's content or tips or hints. I don't think anything else like gifts or anything, but they and those kind of things really play out. But the biggest thing that got me was timing. So I think you got a very good point there. Even though Ninja pulled people over to Mixer, like I said earlier, that maybe there's more less streamers per viewer, so you have a much better audience or bigger audience on Mixer. Hitting the curve at the right time makes a big difference.
Yeah. I've been on the platform now. This is now officially like going on 3 years. And like I said, I've kind of seen every summer Mixer really make an ambitious type of move with their platform and trying to get it more to the Twitch level. And every year I'm very like, go, especially if it's people I don't know, I'm like, yeah, go. Like, Twitch is super oversaturated. Like, and if we have another platform that can alleviate that or balance it out a bit, to make people more discoverable, like, go for it. It's like a pimple that needs to get popped at this point. But what I've kind of been telling people and kind of sharing, in my streams, what I've been telling people is not because it's the TwitchCon that we're getting to go to and I think this for Twitch, they're in a do or die type of scenario now and moment where I think TwitchCon could be a really cool opportunity where they can roll out a lot of really big stuff. In previous years, it was literally the affiliate program and then bits and then, like things like that, which were quality of life that I think helped the platform. But, I think now especially it's back to like when Apex and Fortnite, when Apex came out and everyone was talking about that. And, it's not that Twitch needs to come up with original ideas. They just have to implement those things that people like on the other platform and do it really well, and do it on a professional level. Because like Reboot, respawns were the big thing about Apex. So, you don't just die and then you're out of the game. Mm-hmm. You can come back and there's that, you keep your teammates in because of that, even if they're randoms, because they might revive you. And Fortnite literally just took that and branded it as Reboot Vans, and they're here. And now literally nobody, I ask everybody all the time, what is Apex's respawn system called? Nobody, there's not like a real name for it. Everyone's like, oh, the Reboot Vans, because Fortnite branded that so much better. And I want, like you said, I want good competition to be there. I want Mixer to succeed. I made that video as like a joke yesterday. And then I'm going to share my actual thoughts on it later today as well. But I want Mixer to do well, and I want the people who feel called there to do well on that platform, especially the Christians. So yeah, so that's why, I like I said, I've been asking people just to kind of feel them out, see where they're at. So yeah, so you're kind of saying you think you're leaning more towards that, or at least investing, there's only so much time in a day. There's only, it's the one resource. Time is the one resource we can never get back. So you're trying to figure that out between spending time with, being a husband, having some type of social life, but then also, now you have to split your streaming and content time with the two. And if you had to, you're saying you're leaning more towards Mixer still at this point, right? If I'm hearing you right.
Probably, if I'm being honest with myself. But then there's like the reality of, okay, I'm going to the short-term reality of I'm going to TwitchCon in like a few short weeks. What does that mean? How do I commit my time one way or another? I don't necessarily know what that's going to be yet. I still need to frankly think about it and pray about, okay, what am I going to do? But I do see real value in what I've seen on Mixers so far. And it's hard to, because you put so much time and work into something, it's hard to set it aside and move away from it. But
right.
Is it better now before I'm a Twitch partner? And, I don't know, it's hard to say, like, or before you have, or is Twitch partner 3 years away? You have no idea what that could potentially be. I do think there's very real elements of why people move to Mixer, and I could probably do a straight roast for 10 minutes on like people moving for the wrong reasons or whatever that may be.
Yeah.
I won't necessarily go on that today. Maybe I can fuel your next meme video for you, but like you hit on a lot of them of like yeah, I don't know. I mean, bad content is bad content at the end of the day. It's still going to be a grind. You're still going to have to put in the work. You're still going to have to do all the right foundational exercises. You're still going to have to eat right and exercise, right? Like that's how you lose weight. There's still like foundational principles to streaming content creation that you have to hit. It's not going to be a instant success. I just think it has some nicer things going for it.
Yeah. And the reason why you can't use Restream and just stream on both is because you have to. I thought you couldn't do it. I thought the rule as an affiliate on Twitch was you could not stream the same day on a different platform. But come to find out, I said that, and then some people were like, no, it's you can stream on the same day. You can't have the same stream going at the same time. It can't be the same content. So like I can't broadcast this show on both platforms. I could do this and then I could turn on Mixer and go, play Destiny or something. But you can't do the same thing on both platforms. I mean, like you technically can, but if you get caught, whatever, they can take your affiliate or whatever. And Mixer doesn't really have that yet, right? I think they're probably working on some type of affiliate program.
It's in like a month or two.
Yeah, give that up and just go after people and use Patreon. That's true. That's a legitimate strategy. You could try that and do that. Yeah. But Drew, thank you for sharing on that. Definitely love being able to hear how God's using you and moving. And, like I said, I jokingly made that video, but I'm like, hey, if we can reach more people that way, we need Christians on those platforms just as much as we need them on every other platform, And as disgusted as, last week we had Ali on, and as disgusting as TikTok is, I still can't bring myself to make an actual account. But hey, we need Christians on there too, and if Ali could be that influence, why not?
TikTok,
yeah. But all right, last segment of the morning, guys. We're gonna have Ken, who's our field agent reporter, He just came back from PAX West. He's wearing the PAX shirt. Ken, tell us all about what's going on, what games are shown, stories, friendships that were built. Get us hyped and ready because TwitchCon is coming up, and we get to see all each other there.
All right. So yeah, PAX West was once known as PAX Prime. It's the very original one. I think it's the 15th season now. So yeah, because I live in this area, it makes it easy for me. I always get a hotel room, get down there, and just chill out, have fun, family and friends. It's kind of cool. So this year, I gave it 9 out of 10 because I think it was overall good because it wasn't as crowded on the final day for me at least. But the other thing was there's a lot of AAA games there, but not as many as past years. So there are a lot more indie small games, smaller developers, AA type of stuff. First off, I was very impressed with all the statues that were there. I mean, they had a huge dragon thing for Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and other statues there, right? But AAA games there were Borderlands 3, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Ghost Recon, and some other stuff, right? It wasn't like past year because noticeably missing was Blizzard, Bethesda, BioWare, even Epic. There was last year, there was a whole parking lot dedicated to a Fortnite tournament. Yes, there were people playing Fortnite in the con at different booths, right? But they weren't there like they did last year. So, I mean, that might have played differently. Discord was there. Mixer was there. Twitch was not. But that was interesting. I'm not sure what that means.
Maybe because they're just getting ready for TwitchCon. It is only a few weeks away.
But they were there last year. I think TwitchCon last year was later in the year. I'm not sure when last year it was. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, obviously you had the typical Xbox, PS4, Switch stuff going on there. PSVR, Oculus. Of course, Oculus was there with their Facebook gaming. But I only care about the VR stuff directly per me personally. One story I want to tell is my daughter and I stay at the end of the con. We wanted to not go to the final Megathon, which is like a final showdown or playing some kind of video game, like the end of PAX type thing. Stay on the floor to go to the raffles, like Corsair has a raffle. At the end of the con, they usually raffle away the chairs because they don't want to take the chairs with them. So you can get a really cool chair there. And so after that was done, my daughter went over to get a Final Fantasy VII picture on the motorcycle from the game, that nice little prop there. And after she got the picture, they said, "Hey, why don't you go get in line?" I'm thinking, what? The line was closed. I mean, because they basically give out tickets beginning of each day, tickets to play Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm like, okay, whatever. But apparently they didn't even get out enough, or I don't know what it was, but we got a chance to play it. So we were the last group, the last day, the last part of the con, played Final Fantasy Remake. I was going to get it anyway, but even more blown away. I never played it.
You liked it?
So I liked it. Well, obviously the story, everyone says Final Fantasy VII is one of the best ones, I think. So I'm looking forward to coming out in March and playing it. I beat the boss, thank goodness. I was feeling like I'd be let down because after all, I was in a team of 4 playing Ghost Recon and we lost. We did not finish the mission. I saw other people finish the mission while standing in line. So, anyways, it was fun. It was a fun way to end PAX. That was really cool. I have more stories. Yeah. I'm gonna be broadcasting a special episode of my show to record and post it on YouTube, as well as a blog post of things. But I always have fun doing that. And I was there for Guild Wars 2 announcement where they said, "Hey, we're doing this saga, not a season." Everyone's upset now because it's not a season; it's a saga. And hey, by the way, if you own one of the expansions, the other one comes free now. I'm like, oh, I already own one, so therefore that's kind of cool. So
nice.
It was a fun time. The biggest thing, like last year, there was a lot more free food given out. There wasn't as much free food this year. Last year, they had a Monster Hunter truck just going around, like a food truck going around the convention on the roads. You got to hunt it down, okay? Fortnite gave away free food at a food truck with some drinks and some ice cream. So, yeah, it was okay. But
okay. I had a question for both of you guys because it's, you both have this unique perspective right now where this is going to be my first real convention that I go to, ever outside of pastoral stuff. So this is my first, this coming up Twitch one. Truth, you went last year, and Ken, you've been to you haven't been to TwitchCon, but you've been to literally, I think, everything else, right? like Emerald City, PAX, like
It was a con.
you were there
PAX,
like for the
Guardian
first
Con.
conference. You were there like when the idea of cons like were a thing, right? And
Yeah, it was a caveman con. Okay,
You were there when the US was first founded, right?
new invention for a wheel. You know, this rolly thing, right?
yeah,
like,
where they
wow,
displayed the
man.
wheel, the wheel convention.
That's right. You know,
Oh man, but what I wanted to ask is, there's probably gonna be people who are watching. I know a big chunk of people are gonna be coming. I know we're gonna do something like early on Thursday Truth. Just gotta wake me up and drag me along, and I'll follow.
Friday.
Or Friday.
I will wake you up.
Oh, that's so much better. I'm like, no one's gonna be there on Thursday, but Friday is a lot better. So
Yeah.
so we're gonna do something on Friday. But for the people coming, you both kind of have this unique experience there. Truth, you've been there. Ken, you've been to a bunch of stuff. What are like the top things or tips that you guys could give to really maximize and utilize like the time that these guys are gonna be at TwitchCon? What should they be looking for? What should they be doing? What should they bring? Like things like that. And so either one, whoever wants to kind of start that, feel free to kind of.
I have a whole blog post of that.
Well, there. So can you give us one, and then people can go. Give us your good one.
Give us the link.
Yeah.
Put the link in chat.
There you go.
Yeah, I'll once I find it. So the biggest thing I think to do is to prep yourself. In other words, I always do is write down who is coming into the con and try to go get a visual of who they are and find out
You
what they're
Facebook
gonna
stalk
do.
them if you don't know what they look like.
That, checking if they have any after hour parties, would they give out free swag or food and drinks, but just to find out what games they're going to bring, so you can try to prep yourself. If you know your time is limited and you're going to walk around the floor, say I generally walk around the floor the first day. I have 4 days at PAX, so the first day I walk around the floor, but I made a commitment to play 2 games. I told myself always play at least 2 games the first day, but get a scope of the floor. With TwitchCon being 3 days and a bunch of panels, there'll be a lot more paneling, I think, than other stuff. So you definitely got to pre-plan what you want to do. That's the biggest thing, I think, is pre-planning where you're going to be.
Okay. Truth, what about you? What did you find last year that you're like, I'm really happy I did this, or you're like, man, I wish I would have did this on like the first day or whatever in retrospect?
I probably have more retrospect moments of how I would have done it differently. I think like you specifically too, Shadow, probably know a lot more than you think you do when it comes to the panels. Like the panels weren't anything really groundbreaking unless it's an area you really like. For me, one thing that I really like was like the safety and security part of it. Like, how do I hide my home address and not just have like my first name, last name out there? And how do I have, an actual like business address? And, like all of these things that like, oh, duh, that makes sense. Someone can find out who I am and where I'm living,
Right.
like I should probably hide that. And so those were good things to hear. But then there was other parts of like, be on a schedule, be positive.
Right.
It's just like, you're a joke. Like, why are you even on this panel right now? Like,
Move over. Let me take the mic.
Exactly. It was like, I'm just going to leave because why did I commit to being here for like an hour? So I literally came out like pen and paper, like ready to learn, like classroom style. And it's way, way more about networking. I think you'll actually really thrive in this environment. I would highly recommend, if you're a sociable person, that you just hit the ground running and talk to as many people as you know, and talk to many like teams and vendors, and really, because that's like there's never really going to be a time where you're going to be in person with all these people. So capitalize on those. If you can go to a lunch or dinner or grab a coffee with someone, I'd recommend all of that. And it's going to be really, really long days. Like I am a notorious like kind of power walker, and so like I was power walking all over the place, and like even Kenneth can maybe attribute to some of this. There's I have no shame in just like leaving the group and going to talk to someone else that I know I need to. Like I'm not gonna. I'll say this when I get there with you guys. There'll be times when we hang out and see each other, but like when I'm at the convention, I'm gonna try and meet as many people as possible and like just and make those relationships. So if you're personable and able to do that, and maybe even if you're not, I would just encourage people to come out of their shell and talk, because that's why you're there, to like see those people and to form those relationships, right?
I think it's a How I Met Your Mother episode, but they're talking about, I don't know if it's Barney's bachelor party or what, but there's a scene where they're like, in every bachelor party, when you go out, there's the stereotype guys. There's like the guy who just who's the married guy who's like, oh dude, you're in the doghouse now, enjoy today, it's your last day. He's like, there's that guy. There's the like partier guy, the one that just like wants to push everything to the limits. He's like, let's do this or whatever, like, and go nuts. He's like, then there's the guy who like you see at the beginning and you don't see him the whole time until the end of the thing. And then as you're talking, I'm like, is that gonna be truth? Is it like we're gonna see him and then he's just gonna be gone, baby. And he's like, dude, that was great, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gone.
Yeah, to some degree. You'll see me at probably the start of the day, maybe at some point in the middle and at the end, and yeah.
But okay. Can you? Truth was kind of asking you about that. Yeah, go ahead.
What do you say? Sorry.
Nothing. Just go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Well, so minor things, right? Like buy new pairs of socks, but then change them midway through the day.
Hey, that could be a real tip, man. Like,
right.
Hygiene is definitely so. Back when my Yu-Gi-Oh competitive days, I used to go to like regionals and championships and tournaments, and they'd be at these grand hotels, but there'd be like 600 people crammed in like one little hall, and everyone's like shoulder to shoulder. And I to this day, I firmly believe it, that a strategy of a lot of these pro players was like, don't shower the week before, don't wear deodorant, and just eat, onions for like the day before. Because these guys would just smell, Enrique, and you're like shoulder to shoulder, like with these guys, and you're just like, dude, it smells. So like, I would always tell them, like, please like shower, wear deodorant. Like, I would make our group do that. They'd all stay at my house and be like, you guys need to like shower and like be well groomed to go to this thing, but I don't know. I hope that in these bigger convention centers, people have a little bit more hygiene and it airs out a little better in these bigger conventions.
If you are at a con that literally is running 24/7, there are people who will not get a hotel room and they smell pretty ripe at the end.
But TwitchCon's not like that. It's only, what time does it end at?
Yeah.
It closes at what time?
I'm not even sure. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was there pretty much like start to finish most days, and frankly, I loved it. So I would encourage if someone's like on the fence just to go, because I mean, it was just an absolute blast. I've never done anything like that, but
yeah. Cool. So
long days.
So network, guys. That's like the biggest thing I think of what I'm hearing here. But But yeah, so come hang out with us on Friday. Truth has the stuff. I'll retweet it, or have you made a tweet of it yet or no?
I have. Yep.
Okay, so I'll retweet that. I was gonna wait till like the week of, but I mean, I've just been telling people about it.
Yeah.
What's the plan? Like,
post it in his Discord again, right?
Yeah.
Also,
yeah.
Announcements, because off of GMA.
Yeah, I'll throw it in my Discord, and I think it's in GMA's already. So what's kind of that morning that you really
from GMA?
Kenneth, it's bad that they deleted it in GMA. Anyway, besides the point of that, the point of doing this whole thing is just to like, again, network, like create those relationships at the very beginning. I think we had like at least 10 people last year, which I thought was pretty cool to see. So if you know of anyone in, I'm thinking the more like family friendly content creation space, like invite them to that kind of meet and greet in the morning. And I think that would be, it'd be cool to see a lot of people show up. I'm hopeful that we'll have at least double what we had last year. I think it's looking like that right now. And so, there's even other partner streamers that came last year. And so I think that would be cool to see a similar turnout. It's, and it's even good from like a ground level to like know some people before the convention starts. Cause I flew out there literally by myself. Right. Yeah. And so it helps for me to know, okay, hey, here's so-and-so I can go to dinner with that night. So I'm not like going home by myself, like those types of things really help kind of get you into the group and help. You create those connections. Even if you're the most social person in the world, you probably still want to go go grab dinner with someone. Right. And so,
and I think it's good to have something. So I think that would be really good for Friday morning. I think it'd be really good to have something like on a Saturday, like if we did, to be able to go, hey, like maybe not Friday, if you missed it Friday morning, to go, hey, like, well, tomorrow night, we're all going to get together and go have dinner at XYZ, or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, just so we have something that as we're talking to people and be like, hey, or even if it's in between conversation, between sessions or whatever, just be like, hey, like we're going to get together here. Like, here's my number, or here's my, whatever, our Discord, we're all going to meet up over here at the end of the day. So I'm sure we'll kind of keep planning some stuff out, but
yeah,
super fun.
And the biggest thing, for a lot of us, I mean, this happened at Guardian Con. I see the same thing happening at TwitchCon too, right? For a lot of us who we've chatted in voice chat, we've watched each other's streams, we've seen each other's faces. It's going to be a blast, because it's not like we're always going to go, oh, hi, I am Ken. And you are, oh, Jay, how's it going, Jay? Where are you from? It's like you jump in going, dude, did you see that, man? And it's like, because we saw each other the previous day in either Hear Me Out, whatever. Right? It's like old friends getting together for the first time, or just, like we just off you go. Okay. So it's really kind of fun.
It'd be fun. Is like if there is another convention as we continue to grow and, have more people come out to things to do. Have you guys ever played like Assassins before? Either like on a college campus or something where like you have you've never played. So like everybody signs up for the game or whatever, and then everyone gets a name of somebody else, and your job is while you're at school or whatever in a convention is to find that person, and like you have to hit them with like a sock or like with a rubber band or like whatever, and then you get their name and they're out of the game, and then you have to move on to your next target and assassinate them until there's like down to 2 people, and there's always like a prize attached to it. So I would love to do like a massive game of like assassins and have like a $200 prize or $500 prize pool or whatever, and like if we charge everyone like $1 or $5, it would just be fun to like do something like that. This year, since we don't have the number of people, if anyone's coming to TwitchCon, let's clip this, and if you hit Ken with a rubber band and I see it, I'll give you like $1 or something.
Boom, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got to take off, guys, but thank you for having me today.
No problem. Do you want to tell everybody where they could find you? Yeah, we were wrapping up here. So do you want to tell them where they can find you, what you're doing next, and all that good stuff?
Taking over the world one piece at a time. It's TilTruth, all social medias. TilTruth, www.tiltruth.com. Boom, there you go.
All right.
Easy.
Perfect.
Easy.
And you're gonna be streaming later today. I think right now you're gonna get.
I will be. I've got a meeting over lunch, and then I'll be streaming this afternoon. So.
All right. Cool. Well, thank you, man. Thanks for coming on. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on.
All right. Cool. We'll see you later, Ken. What about you? Where can
Thanks
we?
for having me, guys.
Yeah, no problem. See ya.
I'm gonna hop off. I'm being late.
No, you're good. Go for it.
Everywhere.
Ken, where are you at?
I am everywhere. Look at my minigun, gun now. Okay, well, thanks, Alan. I'm gonna be playing some. I'm gonna do some GMA stuff
This is
afterwards.
all you now, Ken.
My office day, but I'm gonna play some World of Warcraft Classic because I'm level 15. I need to level up, and it's a blast because of all the people I know, both online and in real life, who are playing it. So I get a chance to hang out with them again, and just I saw a friend of mine today at Disciple Group, friend Jason, who's actually in our GMA Discord. He's like, we gotta hang out, play together because we're both level 15. So it sounds good to me. He's working right now, so I'll be later. But it's great to have all those people I know that like playing WoW Classic, getting back into WoW Classic. So it's really cool. Yeah, for sure. Well, we appreciate having you here, Ken, and we will see you then in just a bit. Truth had to run, so do you want to pick our song of the day? Okay. Actually, there's
whatever song you want, Ken. This is your time to shine.
What's funny is that I went to a concert at PAX. Okay, Supergiant Games. They make games, Bastion, Pyre, Transistor, and a new game called Hades, okay? And they had some pretty cool songs. And but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say you need to do the main theme song from World of Warcraft.
The main song. What if I just type in main song from World of Warcraft? It should come up.
Main title. It's called main title.
My dog knows. My dogs like know when the show ends. So classic song Glory Days? No, that's not it. It's called
the title. I thought, I don't take much time now.
Let's see here. My dogs are like, come on, you're supposed to be done. Let's do. There's like so many like memes.
Warcraft title music. Let's see, is it?
Shh, guys, relax. Is it login music? Is that what it is?
Yeah. Yep,
okay.
Login music.
All right.
There you go.
We're going to play that.
Right. Dang, WoW Classic is going to be blamed for so many playing accidents. Okay.
Guys, thank you for watching. We'll be back in just a few minutes, but until then, enjoy this music. See you guys. We are out.